Join us and help us continue to support the many talented people of our community. Learn how to get your business highlighted on La Crosse Local. Go to lacrosselocal.com and click on Advertise. Prevention is the key to a healthy life. That's why Gunderson Health encourages you to learn about vaccines and how they can help you and your loved ones stay healthy. Vaccines protect against preventable diseases and viruses by boosting your body's defenses. Visit GundersonHealthVax.com to learn more. We hop online with composer and lyricist Sana Illahe. We chat about traditional centuries-old music that has been passed down orally through the generations. We talk about writing music in the classical and non-classical traditions, a new solo album, and what people can expect from an upcoming show at the Pump House. You can find more conversations, food reviews, live music, weekend picks, and events on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is La Crosse Local.
So my name is Sana Illahe. I was born in Pakistan, Lahore, Pakistan. That's a city. I've lived there for most of my life, and then I moved here to the US for my PhD, and now I'm teaching at UWL. But what led me to music was, I've always known I would always be that person in the family who would be singing and who'd just be, kind of chipping into the family events by adding their voice. So I'd always known, I was encouraged by my family that, you have a good voice and stuff. But then there was this one specific gathering where I had met up with this mentor of sorts who heard me and said that you should train yourself in the classical music and get proper training because you will do well in that. So, and that was when I started. That was in 2016 when I started properly learning.
Kind of talking about your upcoming show here, Music of Pakistan. It talks about century-old music that's been passed down orally through generations. So did you get into that right away, or is it something that's always been around you, or is it something you had to dig into a little bit more?
No, as a younger person, I was not around this kind of music at all. It was when I decided to uptake musical education, like in 2016, that's when I found this teacher who was very well trained in this ancient music and who started passing on some of this music to me. And then later on, a year later, this person thought that I'm at that point where I could be graduated to his father. So I was passed on to his father, who's really like a legend of sorts. So yes, I got even a deeper understanding of some of this ancient music.
Huh. In the show's performance, it's classical and non-classical, but you're also writing music simultaneously, right? So these aren't just traditionals. So these are written in that sort of format in some ways. What is the process like? Is this natural for you to kind of write in this genre, or is it difficult, or how do you go through that process of writing music like this?
So I just want to clarify that when we talk about writing music, we don't notate music in the classical Pakistani tradition of music. In fact, nothing is almost notated. It's all orally passed down. So, I mean, we talked about that a little bit, that it's all ancient. This recent performance that I had, I sang songs from 12th or 13th century. So they're in the same form, plus minus, of course. There's some, additions that are made along the way when they're passed down. So somehow, because my training has been so rigorous, and I'll just talk a little bit about rags, this whole idea of rags. So what happens is that you have these 7 pitches, notes, that you play in the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So we have sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa in our tradition. And a specific combination is called a rag. And there are thousands of combinations, thousands of rags. And every rag has an energy, has a specific mood, and as a time of a day or season of the year that you kind of sing it in. And so once you start educating yourself and start researching that specific rag a little bit more, it kind of allows you to, as a creative person, also start composing within that specific rag. So you've heard all these pieces that have been passed down in that one specific rag, but then now you're at that point where you're kind of just playing that rag in different ways and forms to come up with different melodies on your own as well. So I think that would be one of the ways that my process has worked with some of the compositions. I have used, again, poetry from people who are, from the 17th century, 18th century poets, and arranged it in one specific rag in a way which is very classical in nature, in the Hindustani classical genre, Hindustani Pakistani classical genre. So they're very much set in that genre, but I'm able to do that now because of my training. At the same time, I've also collaborated with musicians from here, from the West, and we've come up with melodies. So I have a friend of mine, a very good friend, a piano player whose piano recital is coming up also at UWL on March 29th. So he would compose some piano piece for me, and I would compose a vocal line, which is, because of my training, I would use that genre of classical composition, but at the same time, it's not at all classical. That composition is it could be called pop, rock, and there's no particular genre to it. But I'm also using very much the skill that I've been fostering over time.
It sounds like there's kind of like a through line that you kind of keep coming back to, but there's a lot of remixing, improvisation, almost, jazz in some ways, where the improvisation component is a big part of it.
Yes. I would say, I think improvisation is a big part of the classical rendition as well. In fact, these rags that I was talking about, they are sung for so if the maestro is going to be singing a rag or introducing a rag to the audience, they would sing for hours. I've been at events where I'm listening to a maestro singing for, let's say, 1.5 hours, which is like which is supposed to be lesser than the usual, because now people have less patience. So, they would sing it for shorter periods of time. At a stretch, I've sang something for maybe 40 minutes or so. Then you have a rag as the structure where you're kind of singing something, but then within that structure, while keeping the rigor of the structure as well as keeping to the parameters, like the ascent has to be done in a specific way, the descent has to be done in a specific way, and no new notes can be added, and all that kind of strict parameters of the rag. But then you have all this room to play and improvise within that time. So that allows you all this, kind of you can then go on and on for so long with those improvisations.
It sounds kind of like meditation in some ways.
I think I would add, yes, it is very meditative, this kind of music. It also uses a lot of spiritual themes in the rags. You'd be singing about this divine energy or something within you, something outside you, something that you seek out in your times of trouble. So there's a lot of spiritual elements and a lot of healing components. There are stories that I've heard, I don't know if they're, myths, which are, that people have healed listening to rags, when they are done right in the right time of the day by the people who have the right kind of skill. It is very meditative in nature. So when you're sitting there listening to a rag, it's very much a trance-like kind of feeling.
State. Huh. With the album, you're also playing a variety of instruments throughout it, correct? Is that just something you just picked up, or is it one you've been adding throughout your life, or?
Yes, I think ever since 2016, I had a harmonium before 2016 because I'd started to learn a little bit before that, also like maybe 5 or 10 years before. But a harmonium, when I say a harmonium, it's not a harmonium in the Western style. We have like a small keyboard which has bellows, and so it's relatively carryable, I would say, in comparison to the Western harmonium. And I brought mine from Pakistan. So that's the one I play. It supports me while I sing. Sometimes I'm able to play it very well while I'm singing, but mostly I try not to focus on that. And I try to focus on my singing solely. So I would just play a few chords just to kind of, make sure that I'm singing within the rag, etc. I also play the sur mandal, which is something I added later on to my singing. It's kind of like an auto harp in the Western sense, and it's but if you have to tune it to a specific rag, and then you can strum it while you're playing in different ways with the ascent or descent, however you want to do it. And then I also have a tanpura, which is something I've always trained with. I've trained with a digital tanpura, which has a recorded sound of tanpura, and a tanpura is like a drone sound like a bass sound. And I used to have that digital tanpura with me always, because that was just like, there's no tuning needed, it's carryable, it's portable, etc. But now I also have the acoustic tanpura, which I use while I'm performing, which feels way better than a digital one, because you pluck the strings while you're singing, and you kind of are communicating. The singer and the tanpura itself are kind of communicating while you're singing.
So you're kind of like wrapping up this album, right? The recording process, you're kind of putting the finishing touches on it.
Yes, the album that we're talking about, that we have recorded, my vocals have been recorded. We are adding some instruments to it right now. So the harmonium has been recorded, the piano piece has been recorded for it, and some tanpura, auto harp. We are now adding bass and some Western instruments to it to make it a good fusion, because it's already in a very fusion sort of a state, because my singing is coming from that very traditional Pakistani tradition, and then the piano is very, very Western, so we're adding some more Western instruments to it. But my vocals have been recorded. I'm very excited about that.
So is there any favorites on that album, or any particular song that you like to play live that people might expect to see at the Pump House?
Ooh, I love that. There are so many, and I know it's such a cliche. Oh my God, all the stuff that you do are like your babies. So it's not, But I would think there's one song which is very beautiful. I think anyone can relate to it. It's called Tere Saath, which means with you, and it's a romantic love song. It's just a done very simply, but obviously I'm adding the ornamentation, the vocal ornamentation that I've kind of learned from my classical tradition. And it's just a beautiful love song. It's called Tere Saath, with you. And then we also have a Without You, which is Tere Bina. So that's a kind of a sad song. But yeah, there's that. And there's this one song which I really, really enjoy from the album, which is called Green. And I don't remember why, but when I heard the melody for the first time, the piano melody for the first time, it reminded me of something very, very green. That is very beautiful, and I think that's something that I would love to sing at the Pump House as well.
So what can people expect from the show? Is it just you? Is it you and a few other instrumentalists? Like, what's going to happen when they arrive?
I'm definitely going to be there, and I will bring in some of my traditional pieces, which have been passed on to me, which are the ancient traditional pieces. And then the person that I have collaborated on with the album, I'm hoping that they also jump on this opportunity and kind of accompany me on this. So then we'll be able to see them on harmonium or piano, either of the two, and we'll get to kind of perform some of our songs, the original songs as well.
So it's Saturday, April 15th. It's at 2 p.m. at the Pump House. It's a free performance, but donations accepted going to the artist and the performers. Man, this sounds kind of exciting. So is there, a spot that people can go to find out more about your music or about you, or?
That's a work in progress. I guess keep looking out the events pages in La Crosse, because I do perform every now and then. But yeah, that's something that I'm working on these days, kind of like putting all my work in one specific platform. And so hopefully.
So stay tuned for a website, social media, and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
All right.
La Crosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at La Crosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the La Crosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.